Hey there, it's Lacy J from Space Bear Media, the makers of Lost in My 40s. Did you know that Space Bear Media also has a YouTube page where you can go to watch a video pre-show before every podcast episode? If you haven't watched it yet, stop, go there, do so, and then come back. Hello, welcome to Lost in My 40s, episode 15, where we find out what that fucking hobbit is really made of. I'm here,
long bottom leaf.
Lacy, Christy, Ben, and Derek. It's my episode this week. It's called Homecoming, and it's a Charlie episode. But before I start, shall we go to Ben to give us a little bit of a recap of where the standings are right now?
Yeah, last week we had Locke tie Kate for first. It is the first time that she has not been exclusively in first place since episode 1.
Whoa.
Yeah. The rest of the rankings have stayed basically consistent. Obviously, Shannon is persona non grata. With Sawyer in second, and Michael, though he did win back some ground, he is still in the bottom 3. We have Jack. I guess
that's what he gets for being useless the first several episodes.
True.
Yep.
We've Jack holding strong at number 2 right now, though he's only there by the grace of Kate and Locke being tied for first, and that brings Sun into third place.
Interesting. Okay. Everybody ready?
Yes.
This week, the episode opens on Charlie's face. He's asleep in the caves, and you hear people screaming for Jack. As Charlie opens his eyes, you hear someone say, "We need the doctor." Locke comes into the cave, and he is carrying Claire, who at this point looks unconscious. And Locke says that she collapsed in his arms. Jack.
She says she killed herself, Charlie, when she found out you read her diary.
Oh my God.
It's all your fault, Charlie.
Oh, that's intense. Jesus, Ben. All right. So Jack is like looking her over and patting her face with a cool cloth, I guess, something like that. There's a crowd of people forming around her. And Jack's like, wake up, Claire. It's time to wake up. And which I found sort of weird, but anyways, she does. She wakes up like a bat out of hell and screaming and backing away from them, asking like, "Who are you people?" Basically, she has no recollection of anyone's faces.
But I did like Jack's bedside manner.
You did? See, I don't know why I found it ridiculous.
I mean, is she supposed to say, "Wake up, bitch"?
I know, like slap her a few times or something. I don't know.
I'll just start pounding her chest like you did Charlie.
I've had my share of doctors, and I really like the ones who have a good bedside manner.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I would
more good in bed.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Like you've had some peace, and all of a sudden she gets up and gets all shrieky and everything. I'm just like, can we just put her back in the jungle? She's gonna be like this. Come on.
I'm feeling like really amnesia now. Like these people can't get a break. It's one fucking thing after the next on this island.
Yeah.
So anyways, this is when we get the lost title screen. And when we come back, Claire has calmed down. She's sitting there talking to Jack. Charlie is within like the camera angle, so he's close by. There are other people there in the caves as well, kind of milling around. And she says she doesn't remember Ethan. She has no idea who any of them are. The last thing that she remembers is the flight. And Jack has to tell her, well, we were all on that plane. The plane crashed. That was a month ago, by the way. And she's curious as to why nobody's rescued them. And everybody just kind of like side eyes each other. Like nobody wants to tell her all of the
Boone's
horrible
fault.
things that they've found out. Yeah.
Yep.
That's why.
Boone did it.
So then they kind of cut to the back of the caves where Jin and Soon are. and he wants to know what she thinks that they're talking about. She pretends like she doesn't know, and he questions if she thinks the baby's okay, and she just sort of looks at him sideways and says she thinks that the baby's fine, or the fetus,
I wonder in
guess.
this moment if he's starting to suspect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ben
I
said the same thing.
Yeah.
I wrote down just that it was like an awkward exchange, but it could be awkward because that's the thing. Is like he's starting to get a clue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next, we cut over to Locke and Boone, and they're surrounded by booning
torches.
Booning torches.
That's what I was going to say. Burning torches.
They could set Boone on fire. Why not?
Yeah.
He's getting more useful than just being a torch at this point, I think.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, Boone wants to know, like, well, where did Claire escape from? Where's she been? He's got the same questions Derek has. And Locke just kind of casually is like, well, you know as much as I do. He doesn't really seem to care so much, honestly. So they have a conversation about how weird it is that she can't remember anything. And Boone is wondering if Ethan might be skulking around out in the jungle. And Locke responds, I sure hope not. But, like, of course he is. So we're back with Claire and Charlie, and he's giving her her journal, thinking that maybe, if she read it, it could help her memory or whatever. And he tells her that what happened when she disappeared and how he was with her and how Ethan, actually, no, he doesn't say. He doesn't say that Ethan tried to kill him. He just says he made it back and she didn't. And there's this crazy moment where she asks, like, who is Ethan? And Charlie responds, Ethan is the bad guy. Which I found...
It's funny to me.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
In a lot of these episodes, they're like, well, you're the hero and you're the bad guy and, you're the hunter. They say that to each other a lot. They give each other their roles, basically.
Yeah. So the reason that I find this moment to be so big is because, like you say, Christy, everything seems very clearly defined. They keep, like, who the good person is and who the bad people are and whatever. But as the show goes on, that becomes grayer and grayer.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
You have no idea. But it's a really, it's one of the sort of interesting concepts of the show, good and evil, and how it bleeds together, I suppose. So anyway, she is curious, Claire, that is, as to whether or not she and Charlie were friends. And he tells her yes, and the camera kind of focuses in on his face, and he looks really just genuine. And over top of that scene, you hear somebody like...
Man, that's a good sound effect.
And we're in a flashback, and Charlie is in an alley snorting heroin and talking to some dipshit named Tommy. And
I don't think that's the first time Lacy has done that.
What?
Snorted heroin?
What, sound effects? Totally, yeah. So,
not
anyways,
heroin. I'm not accusing you of doing heroin. Let me clear that up for the listeners.
Yeah. I know, right? What you were saying is that I have allergies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So Tommy says they're almost out of drugs and it's time to put Charlie to work. So they walk out of this alley and into a bar. And Tommy points out Miss Lucy Heatherton and describes her as 22, ripe in so many wonderful ways. Ya pig. Just graduated from Oxford and lives in Knightsbridge with her dear old dad, Mr. Francis Price Heatherton.
Guess Knightsbridge must be a rich part of town.
Yes, yeah. I'm assuming. So Tommy explains she's super rich and Charlie needs to make her fall in love with him. And she's basically the mark. So then Tommy puts fucking money in the jukebox and puts on everybody's favorite song. You are the best. So Charlie, we see him over like flirting with a group of women. One of them is Mark Lucy, while his own song plays in the background, which is so fucking weird. But he's saying stuff about how he has high morals and their plan to get him drunk and take him home won't work. And, I forgot one thing that drove me absolutely bananas was that when they were out in the alley talking and Tommy thought that the expression carpe diem was French.
Oh yeah.
Sake.
Fucking twat. That's how I know Tommy's stupid. Anyway, so we're back on the island. It's now day 28. We're almost through an entire month on the island.
If it were February, it would be the month. Yeah.
Oh, that's true. I guess we don't really know what month it was. Do we? Do they ever say what time of the year it is when they leave Australia?
I don't think so.
I wonder. I don't know.
I don't know. I might have to Google that to see if somebody else has figured it out. Anyway, so we're back on the island with Locke, Jack, and Saeed. They're walking down the beach discussing Claire, and Saeed thinks there's no way she's escaped while pregnant. And he's worried that Ethan could have set her free for a reason, or that maybe she was a plant all along as well. I forgot. So Charlie is there with them, and he gets real pissed at Saeed when he says that. Saeed is trying to explain, selective amnesia is super very rare. Jack agrees that is the case, but saying that, with considering all of her recent trauma, it's possible. It's not implausible, I suppose. And Charlie tells Saeed, "You're off your head, mate," and gets really angry. Says he's going to go spend time with Claire instead of just discussing her. As he's walking through the jungle, he runs into Jin, and he's speaking to him in English, despite acknowledging that Jin can't actually understand him. Charlie thinks he's lucky that he doesn't really know what's going on, and he can just kind of focus on his wife and ignore the rest of the insanity on the island.
I'd like to point out that Charlie does actually say "Annyeong."
Yep.
He does.
He speaks some Korean.
He does. He says "Annyeong," and for anybody who's ever watched Arrested Development, you'll know why that's funny. Yeah, so Charlie's yammering on, just blah, 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 like he does. I'm surprised he didn't bring up Drive Shaft. And
you all, everybody.
Jin, I'm in a band, man. All right, so they hear a noise in the jungle, and there's this kind of whoosh, 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 whoosh. It just gets faster and faster until a giant fucking rock hits Jin square in the chest, and he goes down. Ethan comes out of the jungle after going medieval on Jin's ass, and he's got what looks like claw marks on his face. And he's carrying
kind of like the Monster Energy drink logo.
It did.
That's why dude's jacked up really all funny. The time on energy drinks. He's just really angry.
That's why he's so damn strong.
Yeah.
Please sponsor us, Monster.
All right, so he's carrying what looks like, is it a branch or a club or something like that?
I think it's called a sling.
Well, the sling
is the weapon.
Is the thing that to spin it, but I thought he had something else in his hand. Doesn't really matter. He says, "Charlie, I want her back," and then
Xenu compels you.
He lifts him up because he's freakishly strong, as we all know, and he's just holding Charlie by his neck up against a tree, basically. And tells him that for every day that he does not get Claire back, he's going to kill one of the castaways, and then expresses that he will kill Charlie last. So he'll have to watch it all happen. Ethan drops him and leaves, and Charlie is left there just kind of gasping for air. And we cut back to the beach where now Charlie is there with Locke and Jack, and Charlie wants to hunt and kill Ethan. Jack, He's pissed, yeah. So Jack agrees, but Locke, ever thinking ahead, tells them that he thinks that they should actually tell a few select people and just have sentries posted at the beach and the caves. And Jack is kind of pissed at that. He thinks that they should be honest with everybody. And convinces
Jack
Locke.
Is so noble.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the hero character, the noble.
Yeah.
I can also see his point that if you don't tell people, they're not going to take the right kind of caution. And so you're really just creating a bigger problem there with trying to wrangle everybody when they don't know why. So I guess Locke also considers that, and he agrees to it, but says that they really need to be thinking about their defense here. And when Jack suggests going into the caves where they can all be together, Locke again is like, well, what if Ethan's not alone? And what if he pulled this move just to gather us in like sheep and then slaughter us, essentially? And at this point, Jack says something to him like, well, clearly you've got a plan, so let's hear it. I really liked that scene. I really love the Locke and Jack interactions because their relationship is so interesting that they're so different, but they always find a way to listen to each other somehow,
Yeah.
which
They're both
I
leaders
like.
on the island.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
yeah.
They're good at communicating with each other, which is nice.
Yeah. All right, so we are back in the caves, and Sun is tending to Jin's chest. He's got quite a bruise on there, and he tells her that he basically blames the other castaways because their actions running around doing everything that they're doing has led to Ethan attacking him. Then we see Charlie and Claire. They're also sitting there in the caves, and she tells him that the other survivors won't talk to her, and she seems clearly upset about that.
Claire, have you considered maybe that you're just not that interesting?
They're just
All you
not
do is
that into
scream.
you.
They're just not that into you, Claire.
Not that into you, Claire.
Yeah.
She still says, she doesn't remember anything, although she's holding the journal and it looks like she's halfway through it, unless she's just flipping through. But Charlie kind of makes a lame joke about how, they've been having a wonderful time together there and they've built a golf course or whatever. And she's really just concerned about if there's anything going on that she doesn't know about that would make people apprehensive to talk to her. He lies and says no.
I was also thinking, like, while she's reading the journal, she's like, and my writing looks a little weird here, but it says you've got a giant cock.
Yeah. You fill me up.
Charlie, I came across some interesting information that I would like to investigate. All right, so flashback number 2, and Charlie in a lame-ass newsboy hat has been
I
coming
hate that.
home.
I just want to smack him. Nobody, okay, I'm just going to say this to every person in the world, I don't care, male, female, whatever, don't wear those hats. You look like a dickhead. That's it.
No,
That's
okay,
it.
some people can pull them off.
No, always.
No.
Nobody can pull that off.
Okay. So,
And the little bowler hats too. Those are pretty fucking awful.
Oh, God, yeah, they're awful.
do
Yes.
people wear bowler hats anymore?
There was a guy on the Great British Baking Show.
Well, I guess if anybody's going to wear them, they'd be British.
British baker, yeah.
Okay, so, anywho, flashback number 2, Charlie in his dumbass hat. He's getting home from what looks like a first date with Lucy, and they're coming home to her father's house, like you do after a date. And he's joking with her about how, like, if she wanted to have sex, she could have just said so. She doesn't need this ruse of tea, I think, is, she asked him back for tea because they're English. That's what they do. She thinks he's so funny, and she just loves little Charlie. He asks where Daddy is, and she says casually, I think he's buying a paper factory. Like, oh, Jesus Christ. So this guy's rich as fuck, just off, buying factories. And she's making tea or whatever, and Charlie is kind of carefully looking through all of the different tchotchkes and artifacts and artwork and all this stuff through the house. And you can kind of tell he's casing the joint, right? So he catches his eye on this metal cigarette case, and the music changes, and you can kind of tell he's pondering stealing it, I think. So she comes back in and tells him it belonged to Winston Churchill, and that her father collects all kinds of things from great leaders of the empire. Acclamation, the empire.
Fucking Connell.
So then she says, well, like, you should meet Daddy and come to dinner tomorrow. And I'm over here like, this is your first date.
Yeah.
Why?
I know.
What? You literally met him
move fast.
yesterday or something. This is ridiculous. So anyways, we're back on the island.
I think maybe her loins are burning for him.
Yes.
You everybody.
Yep. She wants him to sing.
I mean, honestly, every time I hear that song, I get like a little wet. So I guess I understand it.
God.
Yeah, from all of my tears. It's a terrible song.
It really is.
All right, so we're back on the island. Jack is sharpening up a knife, and Kate comes up and gives him some fruit and explains that Locke has told everyone what happened with Ethan. And she wonders why Ethan would want her back. And she kind of says to him, like, maybe it's time to use that key around your neck, referring, of course, to the case with the guns in it. And Jack level-headedly says, no, because we are far more likely to go shooting one another in the jungle when we hear something than we are killing Ethan, which I think he's
not wrong.
Correct. Yeah.
No, he isn't.
Yeah. So then we're on the beach with Locke and Saeed, who seem to be doing some sort of like experiment on a potential booby trap. So they've got something heavy tied up in the tree, and what are they using? Like
empty
cans?
No. It's they're just noisemakers
for
Somebody
noise.
trips
Yeah,
it,
they're just
you
empty
can know where they
cans. They're not that heavy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So when they trip it, it's not supposed to land on you. It's just supposed to
No,
alert
it's
you
just
that somebody's out there.
Yeah.
Which
Can
is
you
what
imagine
happens
Ethan?
later.
He gets like 12 empty cans lands on him. He's like, oh, he goes down.
All right. Okay. You're right. That was dumb of me. So there's like fires burning everywhere. I think somebody mentions at 20-meter intervals around the perimeter. And they're going to be putting these, well, I wrote in my note, I wrote traps, but now that I know that they're noisemakers, they will be putting these noisemakers out there as well. Boone
I wonder
volunteers.
where they got all these tiki torches, though.
Oh, who the fuck knows?
Yeah, that island must have a tiki torch factory.
I think
Either
so.
that or its previous residents were white supremacists. So yeah, anyways, Boone volunteers to take a watch shift, and Saeed like unenthusiastically says okay. But then Locke says to him, of course, we're counting on you. And Boone gets this smile across his face because somebody finds him useful. Exactly. Yeah. So it's a big moment. Like I don't think Boone's used to praise and encouragement, and Locke is there with it. And you can tell Boone likes it. So anyways, we see now the sun is down and the music turns to really ominous. Jack is lighting torches, and Charlie thinks there must be somewhere safer for Claire to go than in the caves. And you can tell that he just feels really bad. He feels guilty that he wasn't able to protect her in the moment where they were attacked by Ethan.
Yeah, I think he says, like, he doesn't want her in those caves, but he says there's maybe caves farther up in the mountains or something.
Which, this is not the time to go searching for potential other caves. But I get it. Like, he feels bad. He feels responsible. So Jack reassures him that nothing is going to happen, which is a stupid thing to do on this island because you do not know that. But he leaves Charlie and Claire there in the caves. She's sleeping on the ground, and Charlie's just with her. So
yeah, and I'm pretty sure that Jack's wrong.
Well, yeah. I mean, what do you mean nothing's going to happen? Like, where have you been for the last 8 days, Jack? Like, something happens every 5 minutes on this island.
We're like 15 minutes into this episode. Some shit's going to happen. Like,
all right, so we're now in flashback number 3, and Charlie is at dinner with Lucy and dear old Dad. And, sorry, guys, hang on. I had to burp. But, yes.
So I had to pay 10 million shillings for that factory.
Yes, and 10 pence.
And anyway, so Dad says that Charlie's the biggest star they've ever had to have dinner there. And Charlie responds, my condolences, sir.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
It is funny. But then we find out that Dad was in a band called the Protestant Reformation.
Oh, God.
Original name.
Yeah, but he gave his dream up because he was married. And his wife was pregnant with Lucy. She encouraged him to keep up music, but he thought, he should be practical and get a job because a man has to provide.
Yeah, Thomas.
Another artist giving up.
Yeah, artists.
Yeah, another. So then Lucy chimes in to say, like, well, also your band was awful, so you didn't really have a chance. Like, Charlie here. And Charlie tells him that Liam just had a daughter and they're taking some time off. And then he just kind of pivots into telling them the whole truth as opposed to part of the truth, which is that it's been a year since they've been together and that Drive Shaft is probably dead. And
royalty issues.
Right. That is important. Yeah. You're right. Thank you. That there were royalty issues. So it's sort of implying that maybe his brother has screwed him over, I think. That's what I get from it. Right?
What I get from it, 100%.
Or more, spending a lot of time in the music industry, most likely their label deal was probably just shit to begin with.
Oh.
Okay.
In reality, you mean?
Yeah.
So we cut to the bar, and Charlie is there with his dipshit friend Tommy, and he tells him that he takes a job selling copiers from Lucy's dad, like fucking out of nowhere. So like 3 days ago, he's a heroin addict who is looking for a mark to rob, and now he's working selling copiers for this guy. And he tells her it's because he really likes Lucy, who Tommy then calls a moose.
Which is so mean. She really is a pretty lady.
She's a pretty lady. She's bigger than Charlie, but it's not that hard to do. He's not a big guy.
Exactly, yeah.
And
he's a hobbit.
Exactly. Tommy is a cocksucker. And so he reminds Charlie that the plan all along was to rip off dear old dad and that he better do it soon because he's been getting heroin on credit is basically what he tells him. And so Charlie, I guess, has a big bill that he needs to pay. And Tommy points out that it's Friday and Charlie's new job starts on Monday. So he's just going to withhold the heroin and see how he does at work on Monday morning, which is pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
We're back on the island now. It's dark and there are lit torches and like big fires everywhere. And you can see they're kind of trying to keep it as bright as possible. A few people have weapons, including Boone, and he's sitting on something he's holding a knife and a spear.
Okay, I want to point this out again. Yeah. Boone, a spear needs to be held with 2 hands, or you hold a knife. Don't hold both because then you're absolutely useless. Put the knife.
The way he was holding a knife, like he was, displaying it for all, like I'm a badass.
Yeah, like it just shows.
Look at my knife
and my stick.
Like Boone is happy that John's like, hey, we couldn't do it without you, but then he gives him the tools. He's like, I don't know what to do with these.
Yeah,
is that what he did?
Yeah.
I own a business.
Yeah.
You want $25,000?
Okay, so. Unfortunately, Boone starts looking a little sleepy. His eyes are doing that they can't stay open thing. And
those
they finally
giant eyebrows
close.
are weighing him down.
So suddenly his eyes fly open. It's now daylight. It is actually day 29. And he hears one of the, things spring, the noisemakers, and goes running into the jungle. And then you can hear like noises in the jungle, and Boone, like a fucking jackass,
fucking idiot,
trips and falls. Holding his spear, falls flat on his face, and out of the jungle comes Vincent, who starts licking him on the face. And when Locke and Saeed arrive, they giggle at this scene. It's really like the look on Saeed's face where you can see that he's kind of thinking like, I knew you were useless, you piece of shit.
You see, you're not good. I am still railing your sister.
Yeah.
You cannot stop me.
We then hear a scream and they take off running out to the beach where there is a dead guy. And nobody can understand how Ethan got past their perimeter and all the way onto the beach. And as there's commotion around the dead body, you can see Locke kind of gaze out over the water and figure out.
I know where he came from.
Yeah. So we're back over with Charlie, Kate, and Hurley. Kate and Hurley are standing behind Charlie, and Charlie's got kind of a crazed look on his face. Like he looks like he can't take much more of this. And Hurley questions how the perimeter was broken, and Kate tells him that they have a boat. They came from the water. Hurley questions whether that's true and actually thinks maybe the guy just drowned, looking for a way to not be terrified that these people have a boat and can come up on the shore at any moment. And that's when Kate tells him that unfortunately his neck, his back, and every finger was broken.
His arms, every single finger was broken.
He was messed up.
Yeah.
So somebody took time with this guy and had to have had something to knock him unconscious, or maybe broke him all after he was dead, because I don't know how you break every bone in somebody's body and nobody hears it.
Right.
So we think the unsub is a boat owner?
Yeah, exactly. So Sawyer walks up and says, I see Steve drew the short straw, like very sensitive to the situation. And Hurley responds, dude, that was Scott.
I knew he was going to say that as soon as that came out of Sawyer's mouth.
Dude. So we are now at a funeral. They've dug a grave and put a little cross on it because I guess everybody knows that Scott was a Christian. Hurley's giving a eulogy, and it goes as follows. Scott Jackson worked for an internet company in Santa Cruz. He won a sales prize, 2-week Australian vacation, all expenses paid. He was a good guy. Sorry I kept calling you Steve, man. Amen, I guess. I don't know how to end these.
And I would say at this point, he's not a very good Googleizer.
I would agree with that. So we're back in the caves, and we see a bunch of characters, none of which we have ever seen before. They are not in the main cast, and they're all being rude to Claire, just kind of ignoring her and shrugging her off, essentially. And Claire walks up to Shannon, and this is the moment that came up in last week's episode where Shannon is wearing like 4-inch dangly earrings, and it just drives me bananas. But I guess you do you, Shannon, you bitch. Anyway, Claire confronts her and wants to know why she's staring. And Shannon basically is like, nobody told you? Next, we cut to Charlie in the jungle, and Claire runs up pissed as fuck and demands to know why he lied and kept the fact, the stuff about Ethan threatening him from her. And she says something really interesting because she says, why would you leave me in the dark, Charlie? I'm already in the dark, which I thought was a good line. He answers that he wanted to take care of her, and she says, I can take care of myself.
Yeah, bang up job so far.
Right.
History does not agree, Claire. Come on.
Yeah.
I think I wrote down, I have written down here, can you though?
Can you? I mean, honestly,
Claire?
like you could actually dive into that statement a little bit more. I can take care of myself. She almost lost herself. Like she didn't even know who she was. So like she's really bad at this.
Yeah. She still has amnesia. How the hell do you know if you can take care of yourself?
Seriously.
Well, no, I guess that's the thing is like she knows everything up until the island, but whatever. Hey, Ben.
Yeah, babe?
Got any special occasions coming up that you need a card for?
Is this a trick question?
No, it's an advertisement.
Is this about barbcards.com again?
Bingo.
So I suppose you're going to remind me that each handmade card is only $1.50.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't come with busy backgrounds or flowery poetry.
You got it. Barbcards.com offers to-the-point communication within several different categories, including our favorite, potty mouth. And if you can't find what you want, barbcards.com can do customizations.
Can I still get all of my cards for no more than $4 shipping, no matter the size of the order?
You know it. Barbcards.com has got all you need. Hey, Ben.
Oh my God, what are we selling now?
Merch.
Our merch?
Yes, sir. Shirts, coffee mugs, wine tumblers, bottle openers, stickers, magnets, and more. Your choice of product and your choice of Space Bear Media graphic from any of our podcasts.
Please tell me we're not making merch now, too.
Of course not. We'll stick to podcasts, and Pixis products will do the rest.
Thank God. I bet you have more to say, though.
Sure do. Pixis Products is a small business run by a local mom, well, local to us anyway, who needed something else to do besides being a snack bitch.
What?
A snack bitch, also known as a mom with a young child.
There's still more, isn't there?
Yepers! Pixis Products works with other small businesses for supplies, art, and other collaborations at every opportunity, including ours. In fact, Pixis Products even gave Space Bear Media our own storefront on their site. You can find us at shopspacebear.com.
Say what?
You heard me. Go to shopspacebear.com and buy something. We're back in a flashback again. It is the morning of Charlie's first day at work, and he is at Lucy's house getting ready for some dumb fucking reason. And he's looking sweaty and gross. She notices that he looks like shit. And Charlie just says that he's nervous because clearly nerves cause dark raccoon circles around your eyes and a sweaty face. But anyway, Lucy then fucking tells him that the fix is in. Her father's already told these people that they have to buy copiers from him to make him feel better or confident or something like that.
Well, that just kind of blows it right there, Lucy. Come on.
Yeah. Thanks, Lucy.
Yeah, but also, like, what? She's known this person for 5 days. Like, what is her... I'm going to get more into Mr. Heatherton later. I hate this guy.
and honestly, do you really need like a fitted suit to sell copiers?
Yeah. Seemed like it was overkill. But maybe in England they do that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Australia.
They're in England at this time.
They're in England at the time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't live in Australia. His brother lives there.
Yeah, you drive a lorry, you eat biscuits. Maybe you wear suits to sales. I don't know.
Copiers?
Yeah.
All right, so
everybody.
So she asks him to like rattle off some copier selling techniques from the company handbook. And he does. He starts like giving a mini presentation, and it's fucking stupid. And everything about this scene is
having worked in a
uncomfortable.
copy center, I can say his encyclopedic knowledge of that was actually quite impressive.
Yes, the copy center. I remember that.
All right. Anyways, while he's rattling off all of his copier facts, he's also eyeing Churchill's cigarette case because his withdrawals are starting and he figures he needs to steal it. So,
like I said, copier facts.
Copier facts?
You said the copier
like
facts.
FAX?
Yeah, so I was like, copier scanner facts.
Well, I meant FACTS,
I know.
that's okay.
Just the facts.
She says she's very genuine and she says she believes in him. I don't know why, but she goes into the next room to get him a present and he puts the case in his jacket pocket, and she comes back with a fucking briefcase because nobody can sell a copier without a briefcase.
There you go.
Right.
And Charlie is like trying to get out of there because he needs to go like take this case, I guess, to Tommy, and mentions the bus. And she's like, no, I'm going to drive you to work because now what is going on in this situation?
It's weird, but she's really fallen for him. You know,
is it because he was like a rock star or something?
No,
or like,
I think she just really likes him, and she's just like all in.
I guess so, but
He is too.
They did.
You have to drive your boyfriend to your daddy's company where he's already the fix is in to buy copiers. It's just kind of like, lady, you are setting yourself up for failure here.
Well, it sounds like her dad's in on it too. Like her dad's just like a whole hog behind Charlie. Like,
yeah, I'm going to get in. I'm going to talk.
The Protestant Reformation didn't
back in
out.
the bar. Back in the bar at the beginning, they made it. You know, she's chubby. You know, whatever. Yeah. Tommy called her a moose. So she's probably not used to getting a whole lot of.
Yeah, that's what they're implying.
Star too.
Right.
You know, especially from a rock star.
Okay.
So she falls for him very quickly.
And did you know the actress who plays her is actually Australian? So it's an Australian playing a British.
Is it really?
Person. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Saeed is a British person playing an Iraqi.
An Indian playing Iraqi.
Yeah, a British Indian playing an Iraqi. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? All right, so
I think maybe actually Mr. Hatherton is just like, he wants to get that band back together. He's like, we could use a bass player. We're going to get the Protestant Reformation back together.
Yeah.
The Protestant drive shaft.
Slapping the bass.
Protestant drive shaft.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I like that name.
Yeah.
All right. We're back on the island, everybody. And Jack asks Locke if they can have a little chitty chat away from everybody else, and they go to do that. And Jack wants to know what Locke thinks is going to happen that night after the sun sets. And Locke just kind of casually is like, well, I don't know, figure somebody will get killed. Sort of seems like that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
Yep.
Somebody gonna die.
So Jack wants him to track Ethan, and Locke is just like, absolutely not. It's a fool's errand. Ethan has the advantage. This is his turf, his island. And, we're just trying to figure our shit out here. And so Jack is, well, what if I could get the advantage back? And Locke immediately is intrigued by this. Jack takes the key off of his neck and walks over to the case, which is conveniently hidden 5 feet from where they happen to be standing. And he takes the case out. He opens it up. Locke sees the guns and says something like, Doug,
Why,
you're
Doctor,
holding out
you've
on
been
us.
holding out on us.
Yes.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
And,
what he should have said was lock and load, bitches.
Oh, God.
Oh.
I do love this moment, though, when Jack hands Locke the gun and Locke's just like...
I think he
And
said
you're
something like, do you know how to handle one of these? And I knew that Locke was just going to be,
Yeah. So after Locke manipulates this gun in a way that is fucking obvious, he knows how to use a gun. He gets this huge grin on his face, and
my
he just
God.
looks like,
Yeah.
Locke is like, yeah, boy.
He got
I love
such a
it.
hard on in that moment.
Yep.
I'm telling you, he looks sexy to me, and I'm not one that goes for like gun porn or any of that kind of shit, but
Gun porn.
I'm not
I'm
an
sure that there is such a
amosexual.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is.
There's hard, and then there's lock hard.
Fuck. Oh my
With the name
God.
Locke.
It is.
All right. We're back in the caves, guys. Jack, Saeed, Locke, they're all trying to convince Charlie to let him basically use Claire as bait. Charlie, of course, hates this idea, but Claire steps forward and is like, I don't remember any of this, but if what you guys say is true, basically, I'm willing to help, and agrees to be bait. So Charlie wants one of the guns, and Locke questions if he knows how to use it. Charlie does not respond, but you can tell by the look on his face, the answer is no. And so they do not give little Charlie a gun.
No gun for the Hobbit.
Right. So we kind of like zoom in on Charlie's face at this point, and you can hear voices in the background. Jack is saying, Saeed, you're the soldier. Locke, you're the hunter. And then you hear Charlie say, now let me demonstrate this awesome speed. And we flash back, and he is talking about the C815 copier.
Why do I have a feeling that that's going to be fun facts at the end?
No, bitch, it's not. But I can. Do you want me to Google copier facts? Because
No,
I
I'm
will,
good.
out of
I'm good.
spite.
I'm good.
Okay. So we're in the conference room, and this fucking scene devolves into absolute hilarity. First of all,
It makes me so uncomfortable.
yeah,
Copy
but they're in
that.
like a legit like copy room with 6 people sitting around the table. One of them's got a stopwatch
Yeah.
in their hand because they want to like,
Yes.
I guess like time the C18 copier or something.
Yeah,
It's so
pages per
fucking
minute
stupid.
or whatever.
Oh, Jesus, it's so dumb. And so then Charlie, of course, like he's sweating, he's confused. He tries to, use the copier. He's pushing all these buttons. The
Screws up, yeah.
guy's like hitting the stopwatch. Nothing will copy. Nothing makes sense. Charlie pulls out the manual because the guy that's selling you the copier clearly should be reading from the manual, and he doesn't have a lot of time to read it because instead he opens up the top of the copier and vomits onto it.
Because that's exactly where you'd puke, is on the copier. Not a trash can.
Yeah.
I think that there actually was a trash can right by the table, too. There was something.
It's a conference room. You're going to have a trash can.
No. I was thinking he should have thrown up in his briefcase.
Well, yeah. I mean, that would have been better than the copier.
Yeah, that's a better choice than the copier.
Did he get the sale, though? I don't think they ever really resolved that. Like they said, the fix was in. They were going to do it. Like, did he actually screw that up, too?
I think, yes.
Yep.
We're back
most likely
on the beach. Locke tells Jack he thinks Charlie is correct and that there actually should be 4 armed men. Kate's with them, and they approach Sawyer together. And Jack asks Sawyer if he knows how to handle a gun. And Sawyer, in prime Sawyer behavior, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Actually, he responds, I know at least one polar bear that would think so.
And one marshal that would think no.
Yeah.
Right? So that does come up next.
Yeah,
so Jack hands him a gun, and Sawyer asks, like, where it came from. Gets no answer. And then Kate's like, yeah, I want to go too. And Jack's not without a gun. So Sawyer turns around and pulls out yet another gun from his tent, which he has apparently had the entire fucking time.
From when he killed the polar bear.
Right. No. Well, no. They didn't. Kate had given that back.
Later, right?
Yeah, Kate had that gun.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is, he says he lifted it. He lifted it off the marshal. He tells them that and actually asks them, like back in the old days, you remember the marshal? And Jack responds, yeah, I remember you shot him and missed.
Point blank.
And Sawyer fucking looks him in the face and says, bygones.
I just have to stop you at this point because these people do not know anything about gun safety. Sawyer had his finger on the fucking trigger many times throughout those scenes. And you don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to fucking shoot.
Yep.
So I was really kind of appalled by the lack of gun safety. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but...
No, not at all.
Okay.
Well, no, because you don't want to be accidentally shooting people. So that doesn't sound ridiculous. What sounds ridiculous is saying bygones about the guy that you couldn't properly kill. Anyway, so you can hear some thunder start crackling, and you see Charlie. He's sitting under a tree that's on the edge of the beach there, and he's watching Claire receive instructions on how this little operation is going to go. She's standing a little bit away on the beach in the group of the, inner circle. And Saeed is absolutely clear they want to take Ethan alive. They need to pump him for information. Guns are an absolute last resort. It's just good to have them, right? So we cut to Claire. She's walking through the dark jungle, appearing alone. It's pouring and she's soaked. We can see Saeed, Jack, Sawyer, Locke, and Kate. They're hiding in various places up in trees.
They're hiding so well that we can see all of them.
All of them,
yeah. And so, they're all in the bushes with their guns or whatever.
And suddenly, Ethan can't. Ethan doesn't see them somehow.
Doesn't see them? Yeah, or doesn't
Everyone
care.
Else can, but...
His supernatural tracking abilities and all that have all just gone to the wayside. It's like a little bit of water, and he's like, I can't do this anymore.
Well, he also appears out of nowhere. I don't know if he climbed out of a tree stump or something, but he's suddenly right there, right next to her, and she screams and runs. He's chasing her through the jungle, and you see Jack come running like a bull and tackles Ethan to the ground. He drops his gun in the meantime because he needs both fists to beat the shit out of Ethan.
Boy, he does, too.
Yeah.
He gets up and kicks him a couple times.
Yeah, he
does.
You know what? As a doctor, I would not be doing a lot of punching. You need your hands.
No, your
and
hands.
You would not be
especially as a surgeon.
Yeah, seriously. I'd grab a rock and just smash his fucking skull with it, but I would not close fists. No.
Yeah, well, Jack is not thinking about this.
No, he's
Locke
not.
runs over to check on Claire, and Jack is just punching the bejesus out of Ethan. Ethan's laying on the ground, and he's just punch after punch after punch. Sawyer comes running up, basically where it looks like Ethan's about to give up because he can't take any more of this beating. So Jack gets off of him, and Ethan kind of climbs up onto his knees, And Saeed and Kate are there now. Everybody's around. They're all like have their guns pointed at them. Sawyer's standing almost right over Ethan with his gun pointed at him and says something like, "Winner by a knockout. Nice one, Doc. Now maybe somebody can tell me who or what this son of a bitch is." And then
I love Sawyer.
pop, 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 pop.
You
Ethan takes
everybody.
Ethan takes 6 fucking bullets directly in the center of his chest.
Yeah.
And there's a pause. Everybody looks over, and there's a little hobbit holding a gun.
Now I gotta say, for somebody who didn't know how to use a gun, he put 6 shots center mass very, very quickly. Like that is,
Yes.
yeah. Even at close range, that's not that easy to do. And he was a little ways away.
Oh, with
so,
the kick of the gun and thing like that. Yeah.
yeah. I
Usually
mean,
it'll
maybe
throw you
if
off.
it was like pop, pop, pop. It'd be one thing, but that was
no.
like,
This
pop,
was
pop,
like
pop,
real
pop, pop,
fast.
pop. Like, yeah.
He's a prodigy.
He is.
Yeah.
So Jack screams, "Charlie!" And everybody else is just silent and looking on in fucking horror, basically.
Call me the gunslinger.
And Charlie's just got this look on his face like, well, sorry. Basically, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
So we're back in the caves, and Jack approaches Charlie and asks him, like, why? Why did you kill Ethan? And he just very simply says, because he deserved to die. Jack,
Can't argue
like,
with
you
that.
know, we could have gotten information out of him, but Charlie, I think, correctly points out that it's not super likely they would have gotten the truth regardless.
I think that he would have given information to Saeed. Saeed is a trained fucking torturer.
Yeah.
Yep, start
Well,
sticking
you know.
the things under his fingernails.
I
Take out
know,
an
but
eye.
really, but it's, I think that studies show that even with torture, like, people will say anything. So they'll say what they think you want,
that's
which
true.
may even be a lie. Anyways, yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe Saeed would have tortured him. He seemed like he had vowed not to do that for the second time.
He would have made an exception.
Yeah,
Yep.
maybe. So Charlie tells Jack that he had to kill him because he needed to protect Claire. And he says, I wasn't going to let that animal near her ever again. So then we flash back for the last flashback of the episode to see how Charlie terribly fails one woman while protecting Claire now. He knocks on the door and Lucy answers. You know, she looks like she's been crying. And what we find out is that somebody, one of the people who was at this little conference, calls or comes over to return the cigarette case, which the EMT found in Charlie's pocket. So clearly they called 911 because he vomited, I guess. I don't know. But she realizes it's been a scam the entire time and calls him a selfish bastard.
Bastard.
And yes, she said that she understands, you know, why he pretended to like her and why he stole the case, but she just can't figure out why he would take the job from her dad. And Charlie is really sad, and he seems genuine to say that, like, he just wanted to be respectable. He just wanted her to think that he could take care of her. And she responds, "You'll never take care of anyone."
Plus, he
was a harsh thing.
obviously
Ouch.
he
Yeah.
just has a passion for well-engineered office equipment.
Well,
Yeah.
there's that. So we're back in the jungle, and you can tell, like, it flashes back into Charlie kind of sitting there like the thinking man in the caves, and you can tell that he's considering how he fucked up so bad with Lucy, but I guess he's made it up by gunning down Ethan. And so Hurley comes into the caves, and we kind of get another one of these, like, panning across all of the characters to see what they're up to things. And he's got his Walkman on, and Sun and Jin are snuggling on the ground. Jack's filling up bottles of water from the waterfall. Shannon is tending to the wound on Saeed's arm. And Claire approaches Charlie and says that she remembers peanut butter and wants to know why. Charlie very cutely says it was imaginary peanut butter, actually. And they kind of share a little moment, and she expresses to him that she wants to trust him. And she tells him good night, and that's it. Then we get the lost title screen, and that's the end of the episode. Christy. You think I'm going to make you sit through facts about copiers, do you? That is untrue. Today, we will be talking about dissociative amnesia. So dissociative amnesia is incredibly rare. It affects 1% of men and 2.6% of women.
Have we talked about this before? I can't remember.
No.
How would we have talked about amnesia before? Who had amnesia on the show this far?
It was a joke. Yeah, I can't remember.
Oh my God. It was so bad, none of us got it.
Christy got it. Christy got it immediately. Yeah.
I can't keep up with you today, Ben. All right. This is what he does this shit to me. Every time I mention something about hearing, he always has to say what.
It's always funny, too.
It is. Yeah, I do that
too. All right. So 1% of men and 2.6% of women in the general population. Rates of dissociative amnesia, though, do tend to increase slightly during times of natural disasters and war. So it is actually likely or possible that she could have dissociative amnesia on this island because it is linked to overwhelming stress caused by traumatic events such as war, abuse, accidents, or disasters.
She's got some serious PTSD right here.
Yeah. So
and then getting kidnapped by a psychopath.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry,
right.
Scientologist.
There you go.
Yeah. And the difference is
blurry line there.
Yeah, very.
So the interesting thing about the dissociative amnesia is that a person could have either suffered a trauma or witnessed it. And amnesia can be caused from either one. And there is some inherited connection to it. People who have the ability for their brain to dissociate in that way, if you are a relative of someone that has had dissociative amnesia, you're more likely to have it yourself as well. So the memory loss can be things that are localized, which would be just small events or the time period, like Claire, that would just go from the plane on. Or somebody could just completely forget their entire life. And there have been cases where this will happen to somebody and they just kind of move on and go to a different place and start a new identity because they don't know who they are, which is interesting, I think. And then someone who experiences dissociative amnesia can get their memory back in pieces over time, or it can just suddenly come back for no reason or no discernible reason. You just all of a sudden remember everything. So that's
I believe they call that total recall.
Yes. I'll be back.
Right. All right. So Ben, what are your best and worst moments this week?
My best moment was just Ethan getting his face tenderized by Jack, and then taking six rounds right in the chest from Charlie. Like, that was just fun. The worst moment was that fucking sales pitch. I mean, that was holy shit. Like,
did that bring back bad memories of the copy center?
Seriously,
yeah.
God. I mean, I definitely had some hungover days in the copy center, but nothing like that. Yeah. That was just awful and funny at the same time.
How about you, Derek?
My best moment was Charlie putting 6 into Ethan, finally getting rid of that bastard. And the worst moment for me was when Charlie stole that cigarette case because, I know that Lucy cared for him, obviously, and I think he was kind of like hesitant about it, but his, desire to get the drugs just overrode that. Mm-hmm. Oh, and one little tidbit is, you mentioned the copier was C815. That's the flight number, I believe. It was 815.
Yeah.
Indeed, you are correct.
It is.
So, my best moment. I had a hard time this week, guys. I have 3. They were all very close to each other. Number 1 was Sawyer pulls out a gun that he's had the entire fucking time. Hilarious. Number 2, Boone trips and falls on his stupid face. Hilarious. And number 3, Charlie puking on the copier. Also hilarious.
That was.
I think the worst moment is when Ethan dies without any explanation as to who he is, whether there are more of him, what the fuck he's doing on that island. I get it. I get why Charlie killed him. But I want those answers too, as somebody who's watching it for the first time at least. But Christy, how about you?
My best moment was I remember peanut butter. I thought that was just
sweet.
A really sweet moment. And then for me, the worst was Lucy crying at the end when she was talking to Charlie. It was a very sad scene, and I felt really bad for her.
What are your character rankings, Christy? Let's stick with you.
My top this week is Jack, and my bottom is Ethan. And then
how did you get Jack? You just like how he handled the gun situation?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Mr. Steady.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He didn't handle his gun very well, but
yeah, he did throw it on the ground.
Threw it on the ground just because he wanted to wail on Ethan. That was
That's not exactly smart.
He could have used the gun. He could have beat them with the gun instead of his fists.
That's true.
Well, he didn't want to kill him. He just wanted to beat the shit out of him. And then as far as fucking, Saeed looked pretty great in this episode. And killing Ethan. So.
All right. Derek, what about your rankings?
My top number 1 was Charlie, just because, he killed Ethan, got rid of that guy. My worst is Ethan, for obvious reasons. And I want to fuck Lucy this episode. I decided to give Kate a break.
Oh.
Wore her out, huh?
She's worn out. Yeah, she's like, no more. I can't take any more of this. No, I feel real bad for her, because she seemed like a really nice girl,
and she was pretty.
And she was pretty.
She was pretty, yeah. And
rich and had a terrible dad though. But, I wouldn't want to deal with him. But yeah, I just felt bad for her.
And you're ready for some strange. You've been doing Kate a lot.
Yeah, and I want to kill Tommy. Tommy is a scumbag.
Yeah.
Can't stand that guy.
He's right under Ethan on my worst character.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
that
greasy hair too.
Yeah.
My best character is Charlie. Although I'm sad that we can't pump Ethan for information, I think Charlie did the right thing. This guy tried to kill him, so that's what he gets. Okay. My worst character is Mr. Francis Price Heatherton, and let me explain why. Because this fucking guy, what are you doing with your daughter? So she meets a rock star in a bar, and she goes out on one date with him, and then she brings him to dinner with dad, and he is not cautioning her at all to maybe you should slow down for a sec. No, he's giving the guy a job and making sure he's buying copiers. I hate this guy. He's setting his daughter up for failure, and I fucking hate him. And
this guy never had a son. That's all it is. This guy never had a son. What does that mean?
Oh, you mean so he's eager to have Charlie or have? Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's a man-sized hole in their life, and both of them are just like Charlie is that that answer.
Or
interesting.
That's my take on it. No father would be so hard on to get a man involved in their life that integrated into their life that quickly, unless he was like, oh, my long lost son.
Maybe he's afraid she's going to become a spinster, so he's
that too. Yeah.
Was she 25 or something in this? Calm down.
She's 22.
22.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Tommy said she's 22.
Yeah,
and
right
spinster.
in so many ways.
Oh. All right. So
yes.
I also killed Tommy in part for that fucking comment, which is disgusting. And this episode, I'm going to fuck Sawyer because that bygones comment really did it for me. It was fucking hilarious. Ben, why don't you give us your rankings and then give us everything comprehensive?
Charlie was my favorite for obvious reasons. My least favorite was Ethan. I actually appreciate the character of Ethan, though I find him, he's awful. I do appreciate that he's in the show because he's a good lightning rod for this sort of murderous rage that Charlie was feeling. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna fuck Lucy, not for any pity or anything. I think she's cute. So and then I'm gonna kill Ethan. I'm gonna be one of those bullets.
You're gonna be the bullet.
I'm gonna be the bullet.
He can see it in his mind's eye.
In my mind's eye, that's exactly right. So I will say the power rankings were interesting. We actually have, for the very, very first time, Kate has fallen out of the top slot, and Locke soars into first place.
That's because I didn't fuck Kate this week.
Yep. Well, even if you had, Locke still would have edged her out.
Oh, he would have? Okay.
Yeah. He's 122 points, where Kate's at 115.
Wow.
Which
what
puts
a swing.
Jack had gained a little bit of ground this week, but still kind of fallen behind. He's now third place with 90 points, and Sun has fallen back out of the top three. Our first, Shannon, still holding strong at the bottom of the barrel. And we actually had Ethan in second place.
Wow, he just shot up there. Interesting.
He did.
He got shot, literally.
He did, and that's obviously, I don't think his score is going to be moving anywhere from here. But we did have what I would consider kind of like a secondary character, not a main character, but a secondary character broke into the actual rankings, into the top and bottom three, which is interesting. And then we've still got Sawyer rounding out the bottom.
Bottom three. All right.
Yeah.
Why don't you go right into your final impressions?
I like this episode. I mean, I guess for a couple reasons. Like, it's interesting to see what Charlie kind of fell to after Drive Shaft dissolved, with a point where he's basically just like trying to seduce women to be able to, like, he's basically kind of like a really shitty version of Sawyer at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
But he's just doing it to get his fix. I like that, I like the way that they kind of came together, and it was like, okay, we've got to defend ourselves. And I liked that, I like that they came in from the water. I thought that's a really, it's one of those things where you think you've taken out every precaution, and then you realize these people know what the fuck they're doing. They're smart, and they probably have, and they have the resources.
And it puts a whole other, dynamic, because you're like, oh God, there's boats.
Where's the boat? Yeah. There's a boat on his island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the sort of catharsis at the end of Ethan just getting fucked up royally. I like that Charlie. I like that he did what he did. Obviously, it would have been better if they could pump him for information, but it was a defining moment for Charlie in the show. Definitely. Where he stood up and he's like, "Look, I can take care of somebody by taking care of somebody else."
Yeah. Christy, how about you?
This was not my favorite episode.
Really? All right.
It was good to get Charlie's story, some more of his background, and I'm glad that Ethan is dead, although Charlie really shouldn't have shot him so that they could try to get information. I just didn't love this one.
Yeah.
Really? So, I mean, no specific reason, it just didn't do it for you?
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't do anything for me, I guess.
All right. I wrote under my final impressions, holy fuck, what an episode. No, but I don't know that I mean necessarily, like, I think it's necessarily better than some of the others. I just mean, like, the change in Charlie's character is so drastic throughout this episode. It swings you from, oh, okay, this guy that we think is sweet is actually this asshole, when then turns out to be sort of a hero at the end. And it's just it's a wild ride of Charlie's character, which I think is a good thing.
He wasn't so much a bad person as he was weak.
I think it was a sad episode, and maybe that's why I just didn't kind of love it.
That's true. Sorry, what did you say, Ben? I didn't hear both things.
I said, like, for him, it's not so much that he was a bad person, but he was a weak person.
Yeah. Good point.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. And then the act that he takes at the end of this episode is so strong and decisive.
Yes.
That I appreciated that part of his character development.
Yeah, me too.
Derek, how about you? What are your impressions? And of course, questions. I'm very curious about that.
I found this to be a pretty good episode. Actually, I read the writer of this episode of the show. This was his least favorite of the whole show.
Really?
Which writer? Carlton?
Damon
Hughes or
Lindelof?
Damon Lindelof?
Yes, Lindelof.
Yeah.
But anyways, I liked it because one of the things that kind of tied together of, whenever Lucy dumped him and said, her last thing she says, "You'll never take care of anyone." Well, Charlie, takes care of Claire basically by blowing Ethan away. Yeah. So he's kind of coming around, realizing that, I did screw up when I was younger. But my question with him killing him kind of, causes my question not to be answered, is why did Ethan want Claire back so bad?
Well, let me say that Ethan's death is not going to prevent you from getting the answer to that question. It's just not going to happen right away. So, all right, guys, next week we will be at episode 16. It is called Outlaws. It's a Sawyer episode. Derek will be presenting it, and we'll see you then. Thanks. Bye.
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 Lost in My 40s is a Space Bear Media production. Executive produced and edited by me, Lacy J. Sound engineering, editing, and original music by Benjamin Trimp. Like and follow Lost in My 40s on Facebook to interact with your hosts. Plus, follow Space Bear Media on YouTube to watch our episode pre-shows. You can also find us at SpaceBear_media on Instagram and Twitter. Or come to our website, spacebearmedia.com.